of supporters around the world who have made this brave initiative possible. We thank the members of the media and all activists and people from all over the globe who have been supporting and reposting the GSF developments in real time. This briefing underscores the level of desperation of the Zionist entity to stop our efforts to end the genocide and bring the much needed humanitarian aid to the starving masses of Gaza. Let us be under no illusion that the Zionist entity that has for the past 7 decades acted with impunity in violation of international law and all human rights conventions are now intimidating us with intensified violence. Their response to previous flotilla initiatives are indicative of what harassment and violence we can expect from them. We were not unaware of apartheid Israel's propensity for violence and would be surprised if indeed they choose a different response. These acts are acts of desperation, not unlike what we witnessed during the last decade of apartheid South Africa. This global Sumud Flotilla comes at a time when some of Western regimes have started to backtrack on their shameless support for apartheid Israel. Yet, none of them are doing anything to stop the genocide, forced mass starvation, and forced displacement of millions of people in Gaza. We call on governments, NGOs, CBOs, labor formations, faith-based organizations, as well as human rights agencies and people from all walks of life to bring pressure to bear on the Zionist entity to stop its violent attacks and the threats of attacks on the Global Sumud Flotilla. We assure our families and friends of the Global Sumud Flotilla participants that we will do all in our power to protect them even under difficult circumstances. We will not stop our efforts as the GSF until the genocide stops. Humanitarian aid flows freely and the Palestinian people are free. Thank you.
Thank you for your words, and thank you for being on our ships and for the important role that you have been playing within the movement from the beginning. We appreciate all true voices that are standing in justice with Palestine and doing everything we can to stop genocide and break the siege. If you can, please allow Yasmin to join us. Thank you, Yasmin. Please go ahead.
Thank you to everyone who's here today, and most of all, thank you to the people in Gaza who are supporting us, and to all my comrades on each of these vessels. I want to speak about the troubling and well-documented pattern, the use of fabricated pretexts by Israel to justify violent assaults on civilian-led humanitarian missions, and the role that uncritical media coverage plays in enabling this violence. Let's recall 2010 Mavi Marmara attack, a peaceful flotilla attempting to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza. Israeli forces stormed the ship in international waters, killing 10 civilians. In the immediate aftermath, Israel pushed out false claims that weapons were on board, that activists were terrorists, and that the flotilla was a threat to Israeli security. These claims were disproven. Independent investigations, including from the UN, found no weapons, no intent to harm, and no legal justification for the lethal force used. Yet by the time the truth emerged, the damage was done, and Israel had already shifted the narrative. This is not an isolated case. Time and again, Israel has used manufactured threats as a pretext for attacking aid convoys, hospitals, journalists, and civilian infrastructure, only to have those claims quietly walked back or disproven when international scrutiny catches up. Now we're seeing the same playbook again. As Global Sumud Flotilla sails toward Gaza with nothing but medicine, food, human rights observers, doctors, journalists, lawyers, parliamentarians on board, Israel is already planting stories, whispering security threats, possible weapons, and terrorist ties. These are not new tactics. These are recycled lies designed to justify violence before it happens. This is how consent is manufactured, not just in headlines, but in the minds of ordinary people, to accept the siege of Gaza as normal, to excuse the killings of civilians as collateral, and to dismiss Palestinian calls for freedom as extremism. But Gaza is not a threat. It is a people under siege, a place where 2.3 million Palestinians are being punished for simply existing, where over half of the population are children, and where even humanitarian aid is treated as an act of war. So today, I urge every journalist, every newsroom, every media outlet, do not amplify unverified, unfair and unverified Israeli claims as a fact. Ask for evidence. Demand accountability, because what you print, what you broadcast can be the difference between life and death for Gaza and for the civilians on all of these ships. The world cannot afford to fall for this disinformation again and again. Journalistic integrity and human lives depend on it. This mission will continue because governments are not stopping Israel's crimes against humanity. We sail because humanity demands it. And most importantly, we sail because Palestinians are our sisters and brothers, and they are worth fighting for. So I call on ordinary people, demand a safe passage to the Sumud Flotilla. Demand your governments stop aiding and abetting this genocide. And as a German citizen, I demand Germany, the second largest weapons supplier to this genocide, to cut all ties with Israel. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you for your words, Yasmin, on our steering committee. It's always a pleasure to hear your thoughts and inspiring all of us in our fight for justice for Palestine. I invite another member of our steering committee to join us, Cleo from Greece.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Cleo, please go ahead.
Yes, as expected from the people, they know me, I haven't prepared a text, so I want to speak to you spontaneously. First of all, it's a huge honor speaking after Yasmin Akar and after Mandela. Huge honor. Second, I want to share with you our joy, our simple human joy when we joined the fleets from Sicily, from Tunisia, from Barcelona, when we arrived here. I am in a boat, literally, and it's of course a bit noisy, and I apologize for that. But after expressing my joy, I want to urge you as well not to believe a single word from the propaganda that you witnessed yesterday and the day before from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel. We are definitely peaceful citizens, academics, doctors, simple workers, mothers, even American veterans. We are people who demand justice, justice for the Palestinian people who have been so resilient and they have been dealing with the genocide for almost 2 years, and with deaths of children, like one kid is dying every hour. Unbelievable statistics that do not matter for some reason. But today, in this international context, when the European Parliament finally took a stance and expressed their solidarity with the Palestinian cause, nowadays that many countries finally recognize Palestine as a sovereign state, we have the chance to break the siege of Gaza, and not only Gaza, to make like a historical rapture, to be part of a historical moment. And we will not leave this opportunity like passing by. We will not abandon our fight. Now we are at the most critical moment, like heading to Gaza. And we should be even more disciplined, committed, and faithful, and even optimistic that we will win, and not we, on behalf of the Palestinian people, of course, we will win because we are right. That's all. That's my single message I want to transfer to everyone. And thank you very much for being here and listening to us and supporting us from far away.
Thank you, Claire, and definitely I understand how you have been waiting with the Greek fleet for weeks and days to be with everyone. So it's a true honor to have our Greeks joining us today. Now our fleet is complete with 4 departures that we have planned in advance, and it's just one step to show the determination of the people of the world to continue this fight for justice and for end to the genocide and to block the siege on Gaza. So we are very happy to have you on this with all our Greek colleagues. Thank you, Cleo. We will have the next speaker, Varsha Gantikota, who's the Executive Secretary of the Hague Group. Yes, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It's a great honor to be speaking to each and every one of you, fearless comrades sailing to Gaza on the Global Sumud Flotilla, which has given a hope, real hope to all of us in this dispiriting moment of marking 2 years of the Gaza genocide. So my gratitude, not just from myself, but on behalf of every single individual and state and bureaucrat and technocrat that's been working with us on the Hague Group to do what you've been doing, which is finally break the siege on Gaza and interrupt the material arteries of the genocidal machine. Thank you for your bravery. From the Hague Group, we only have one message. It's the same message that motivated the formation of the group, which is we simply cannot keep pretending there are existing international institutions, the Security Council, the General Assembly, the ICJ, the ICC, suffice in any fashion to stop the atrocities that we're seeing right now. And that's the exact same kind of pretense that we're seeing today as the flotilla is brutally attacked, especially from Western nations and complicit countries from around the world who keep calling on and condemning and expressing concern, but not acting as states, not acting decisively with international and national policies to protect our fellow brothers and sisters on the flotilla, but also break the siege on Gaza. Here at the United Nations, the Hague Group is convening an emergency ministerial conference once again, bringing together over 31 states to do what you're doing on the other side of the world, which is to break the arms exports to Israel, ensure that aid gets to our friends in Gaza, ensure that there is no port that is being used, no factory, no land, no labor from each of our countries that can be drenched with the blood of Palestinians, and ensure accountability for war criminals, for every single individual, for government officials, and for institutions and corporations that are committing crimes under the Israeli entity at this moment, in this 2-year moment of the Gaza genocide. I'd also like to say all of my solidarity with the members on the flotilla. We have seen statements from South Africa, from Namibia, from Colombia, from Malaysia, each of the founding members of the Hague Group who stand ready to support you and who stand ready to protect every single individual on all the boats on the flotilla should there be any attack whatsoever. We hope that our numbers grow, both on the flotilla as well as on the Hague Group, where states and citizens, governments of conscience and people of conscience coming together to finally break the siege on Gaza. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Varsha. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and this is one of the things that this movement of people has achieved is to bring both land and sea together in our continuous work and mobilization, because this is the only way for us to continue path of justice, of rights, not only for the Palestinian people, but for all oppressed people. So we appreciate the work that you are doing, and we thank you for being with us today. We move for our last speaker, the Palestinian lawyer from US, Lamis Addik. Please go, Lamis. Great to see you again.
It's amazing. Yeah.
You are ready. Please go ahead, Lamis.
Thank you, Saif. It's a pleasure to see you and an honor to hear from Nkosi's, Wilaveli, Yasmin, Yusuf, Kleoniki, and Varsha. I will begin, as always, I'm not in the US. I have not been based in the US since the early months of the genocide. The adhan is playing in the background, so I will take this moment and do as I always do before every speech, and that's to give, first of all, Assalamu rahmatullahi wa barakatuh ala arwah al-shuhada wa ahali al-shuhada. Peace and glory upon the martyrs and the families of the martyrs. It is for them, because of them that we have all gathered today, and that all of you have made this tremendous, incredibly brave sacrifice and risk. And our people are moved beyond words in Palestine, outside of Palestine, and all over the world. I also have not prepared a statement. I'm supposed to be talking about the legal analysis, served as counsel. Our members, our current counsel, many of you have probably worked with them on the ground and on the chats. Because we've been quite tied up with emergency after emergency around the Uniting for Peace resolution, we are primary external counsel on the resolution, as well as organizing around it. But I will just off the bat, and if people need any briefings, there's no shortage. With the Palestine Commission on, the organization is the Palestine Commission on War Crimes, Justice, Reparations, and Return, but also my colleagues, Shabnam, and our colleagues, Evgenia Dionassis, and Sokrati, and Hussein, and Wolas, have no shortage of briefings that we can provide for you on all of this. I think it's eminently and unequivocally clear that there is absolutely no legal basis for the blockade. This has been affirmed time and time again since the Mavi Marmara, since one of the shameful reports post the Mavi Marmara. And absent a legal blockade, there is no basis, no legal basis, and that basis is forfeited to control those waters or seize and abduct passengers on those borders, let alone engage in what should amount, quite frankly, in my opinion, and should be treated as acts of war. And I think that this little term really needs to be something that I hope that the Sumud and the rest of the world, the Sumud convoy and the rest of the world starts taking, that these are acts of war committed by the Israelis repeatedly from the conscience ship to the Madeleine. I'm happy to offer more legal analysis if anything is needed. As an attorney, I love it, but I also find it quite boring. I think what's important is changing the narrative, because law and discourse are reciprocal, and the implementation of this depends on the narrative that you all are brilliantly elevating, both through your physical work, through this praxis, but also through your language. Paramount among them is the meaninglessness of the Israeli and even US and now UK usage of the term terrorism. Apparently the entire world, except the Zionist genocidal entity, are terrorists. That's number one. This needs to be the maximum. This is completely irrelevant. This word needs to be relegated to the dustbins of history as one of the most powerful tools of the genocide. And in our opinion, the genesis of the genocide was the expansion of the circumference of the terrorist frameworks against all Palestinians dating back decades ago. The San Remo Manual, the UN laws on the seas, the Genocide Convention, Everything is in your favor. The ICJ is in your favor to continue. You have seen now naval forces also being in your favor. The UN repeatedly. We just had to secure an emergency letter from 140 Palestinian civil society organizations under the umbrella of PINGO, the Palestinian NGO network. And they insisted in this letter to President Petro to include again the Sumud convoy. These are organizations in Gaza whose relatives and themselves are under brutal starvation and slaughter, and they have sent this message clearly and loudly, and it will be echoed again at the UN, I'm sure, repeatedly today. I will try to stay as long as I can. I am in between a few emergencies to address any legal issues. I think the last takeaway I want to say is, yes, in fact, the Zionist genocide entity has declared that the entire world, all people of conscience are terrorists, and all people of conscience are Palestinians, because all Palestinians are terrorists. And what Gaza has given us, given all the world, is the ability to peel off the onion skin between truth and the rest of the world, to bring the world into the truth of what this empire looks like, run by the Israelis in the Middle East and Western powers all over the world. I want to take a moment and discuss the Uniting for Peace resolution. Even as we're speaking to you, and even upon the announcement of the Honorable President Petro of their intention to bring the United for Peace resolution, there are still machinations, an incredible amount of pressure to continue delaying. And I think one of the most shocking things is the insistence of the West and the Zionist entity to continue dedicating so many resources, from stalking and harassing you at every turn, whether from FFC or the Mavi Marmara to this day, and to each of you individually, their obsession with murder and harassment and surveillance and abuse and violence. And of course, their insistence on dominating the region and the world for the worst purposes. And therefore, it is you who are leading the world truly, and this is not an exaggeration, into an era of light, into an era of humanity, an era of peace and justice and stability for all of humanity. So as we salute our people and our freedom fighters in Palestine, we salute all of you and we thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Lamis, for your insights, and thank you for your intervention. We appreciate having you with us. We will take some of the questions that has been shared in the chat. I saw a question regarding how we will continue the mission right now. If Yasmin want to take that question.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
At the moment, we are joined, the fleet is joined by every ship that is meant to go to Gaza. We are up to 50 vessels carrying humanitarian aid and hundreds of human rights observers, lawyers, parliamentarians, actresses, actors, and lawyers. We will not have a technical stop from here on. We will continue directly to Gaza to deliver the humanitarian aid, to open up the humanitarian sea corridor. We are aware of the threats, and we are aware that several actors would want us to stop, even so far that people are being asked to leave this mission because of the dangers. However, these threats backfired because it unified the people even more. And again, we will take these vessels and head straight to Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin. We have a second question about credible intelligence that makes us think Israel is likely to attack the ships within the next 48 hours, from Laura. Would you also like to take that, Yasmin?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, it talks about the credible intelligence that made us think Israel is likely to attack the ships within the next 48 hours.
We are aware of these threats. When we were sailing with the Madeleine, we had similar threats. And I would urge everyone to amplify this, because these threats are not necessarily towards us. It's to the whole international community who dares to challenge Israel. And it is a threat to the Palestinians who are systematically being erased right now. Everyone is aware of the urgency of this mission. These threats will not deter us. These threats will not stop us. The bombing started very early on in Tunis when both motherships, Alma and Familia, was attacked. And then 2 nights ago, when we had fire literally raining from the skies for several hours, and attacks on the flotilla. Again, Israel knows we are not going to stop. They tried to stop us several times over the last 2 years, and they know that they couldn't, because people are determined. And this Sumud flotilla and other flotillas are just a small fraction of a global uprising. There are millions of people, and there's even a second wave being planned at the moment. They know that we will continue, and these threats will continue, and we are fully aware of this. But again, I would like to repeat, we will not stop. Humanity demands us to deliver this humanitarian aid, because this is a message to the world and all the governments that have not acted, even now are not acting, that we will not be silenced. We will not be complicit in these crimes against humanity, and we will open up the humanitarian sea corridor. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin. I'll take advantage that Mandla Mandela is still with us to ask the next question. So what can be done other than speaking publicly on behalf of Palestinians and putting public pressure on MPs? So what else people can do and press can do in this regard?
Well, this is a call to action. We are calling on the entire global community to look at systems where they can be able to act and stop the genocide. We have often in South Africa said, as much as we applaud the South African government as led by His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa for having taken the Israeli apartheid regime to the International Court of Justice, as well as the ICC, to the ICC. We need to do more. We have become the largest seller of coal to apartheid Israel. Therefore, South Africa is fueling the genocide in Israel today. And we therefore want to call on all citizens in South Africa and in the global community to do all they can to cut the lifelong systems that enable the apartheid state of Israel to continue with its genocide. We know that even the fuel that they utilize comes from Azerbaijan through Turkish pipelines. And therefore, we call on the Turkish government as well as the citizens to ensure that that is stopped. And comrades all over the globe need to look at simple acts that they can do to ensure that we stop this genocide now. It's not about just policies and protests and marches, but we need to find actions that truly end this genocide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandla. One of the questions, or actually repeated in different talks, about the offer we have received to port the humanitarian aid that we have with us, and another one in the same line mentions that it's a port next to Gaza and asking why we don't negotiate. So I'll step in for this question. Being a Palestinian myself, the question is not regarding the lack of humanitarian aid around Gaza itself. It's the prevention of humanitarian aid to arrive to Gaza. And the mission to break the siege and open a humanitarian corridor is to guarantee the direct access of the Palestinian people with humanitarian organizations for those aid. The port that was offered is Cyprus, and it's nowhere close to Gaza. It's not part of any ports in Gaza Strip. and it does not serve the purpose of our mission. There are hundreds and hundreds of trucks that are filled with humanitarian aid that are not allowed to enter. In addition, delivering the aid to the Israeli authorities in Ashkelon, or delivering the aid to an organization in Cyprus doesn't in any way guarantee that the siege will be broken, or that Palestinians will not be continued to be used as targets when humanitarian aid is being delivered. It seems that the way we want to explain the situation from a government perspective and from international perspective as of what we bring in aid in a natural disaster because of lack of aid, which is not the actual reality. What we bring with us is a human rights campaign of people, civilians from all over the world that are carrying aid, because aid is not allowed to go inside. Not because there is an earthquake or a volcano that is not allowing people to reach to isolated population and provide them with aid, because this is a man-made disaster of a government that is committing genocide and that is isolating and displacing Palestinians and not allowing aid to use there. And whenever aid arrives, they use it against the same population. So there is no use for an aid to be given into a different port. It's what we are asking for is Israel to respect international law and to respect the resolutions and to stop their genocide over the Palestinian people, for that aid to arrive and for a humanitarian corridor to be open. Thank you. One other questions that we have is regarding the specific information that we have received. So my colleague Yasmin clarified how this information is circulating, and also how we should deal with this information within the mission, and also from a responsible media. The question in terms of concrete, tangible information that was received, we can confirm that a letter was received from the Foreign Ministry of Luxembourg explaining the same narrative. It's important to highlight, because now we are looking into the sources of those information. Israel has been saying for weeks and days that they will do everything in their hand to stop this mission. And they have been threatening everyone on the mission that they will be put in long-term jail, and they will be treated according to the anti-terrorist laws, and they will not allow this mission to arrive close to Gaza, and there's no one who controls the territorial water of Gaza. Ignoring the fact that in all previous missions, their interception and their violation of human rights happens in international water. The drone attack that happened on our ships in the past few days happened in international water. So to make it very clear, the mission in itself complies perfectly with international law. It is protected by Geneva Convention agreements, as humanitarian aid volunteers and human rights activists are going through international water to deliver a needed humanitarian aid. The one who is violating international law and the one who is committing crimes in this case is Israel. One of the last questions that we have here is speaking about the Italian Navy and the assist to Global Sumud Flotilla. If we can share some updates from our side. I know, Cleo, you just arrived to us, but would you like to share your perspective of both Italian and Spanish government sending those vessels to be observing and sailing next to our Sumud Flotilla?
Sure. We welcome them, first of all. We are not, how to say, reckless or naive to believe that suddenly governments that have cooperated in the past with Israel, suddenly they want to fully support the Palestinian cause. However, it's very positive that they react this way after, of course, our efforts, the efforts, I mean, of the civilians, the efforts of the labor unions in Italy. It was tremendous, their effort to bring attention on this matter and help to protect us, all the fleets going to Gaza. So this is actually a victory of them. The fact that the governments finally are willing to protect us along the way, sending Navy boats And of course, there is a difference. Spanish government has shown its solidarity all the way back. But we welcome, yes, we welcome these initiatives, no matter where they come from. And I would personally ask also the Greek government, and we do this also through our MPs, our parliamentarians, to support us. The Coast Guard, for example, at least as long as we are in the SAR, in the zone controlled by the Greek Coast Guard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chloe. Next question to Lamis. Yes. About the legal situation. What is the legal status of the waters of Gaza, which Israel considers its territorial waters in the absence of a Palestinian state? Why is protection not guaranteed in that area? Is it because it is a theater of war, or because Israel considers it as its territorial waters? For Lamis.
Hi, Sif, and everybody, thank you. I caught only part of that question. I'm so sorry, as I'm multitasking today, but I read the question, and I think it was on the status of the seas off the coast of Gaza. Look, de facto Israeli has control. The ICJ did not recognize this control, but articulated it, which means that they have a responsibility to protect civilian life as the de facto controllers. But according to the ICJ and according to international law, that control of Gaza and its waters is unequivocally illegal. These are illegally occupied lands and illegally occupied waters. They have no rights. And even if they were to insist that these are Israeli waters, which they are not according to the ICJ, not just according to the ICJ, mind you, according to the UN General Assembly Resolution ES-10/24 of September 2024, the majority of the UN General Assembly adopted the ICJ advisory opinion, meaning the majority of the states in the world have acknowledged that Israeli control over Palestinian waters outside the coast of Gaza is illegal. I don't even know if it's relevant to talk about absent that. In the wildest scenario, even if these were considered Israeli waters, they can't intercept without valid, legitimate basis, with due process, with a whole gamut. It has to be proportional. There are all of these legal requirements, which Israel has, number one, declared that it's going to breach. It's declared its intent to act disproportionately and violently. It's declared its intent to unlawfully and discriminatorily abduct passengers and seize the vessels. And what I would say is, I think that these questions are very important, and everybody should be, and I think your respective legal teams, especially in your localities, have given you this information, but to really be able to assert this during all of the conversations is the ICJ has declared Israeli occupation and siege completely illegal. I would keep it at that.
Thank you, Lamis. And Yasmin wanted to add to the answer about the naval ships. Please go ahead, Yasmin.
Thank you, Saif. I would like to add to the support that we're getting from these naval ships. We have to be very clear about the fact that it is Palestinians who need protection, and these governments have failed to protect Palestine and the people of Palestine. And this is why these initiatives come to life. This is why we are here going to Gaza, because all governments around the world have failed to protect Palestinian lives, and they're still failing to do so. So this fleet, yes, needs protection, but why does it need protection? It is because Israel is a threat. Israel is breaching international law. Israel is breaching maritime law, and it's committing war crimes. And instead of challenging Israel and the crimes they're committing, they're coming to protect us. They are very welcome, as my comrade Cleo said. But this is not enough. We can't always act superficially. We need real solutions. And the solution is that these governments protect Palestine. And they can only protect Palestine if they challenge Israel by cutting all ties to Israel. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin. And thank you, everyone who has been joining us. We will continue sharing updates of the mission on our social media. And when needed, we'll also call for any press releases through our channels. We appreciate the work that everyone is doing. We are joining both efforts from sea and land, and our mission will continue. And as Yasmin mentioned, not only through this current mission on sea, but all the mobilization until we end the genocide and break the siege on Gaza. Thank you, everyone, and have a great afternoon.
Recording stopped.